Hello and welcome back to Upfront. I'm your host, Isabel, and today we're joined by our managing editor, Seth. We have a very special episode in store for you guys, but before we delve into that, I want to give a shout out to the MGD studio here at Front Range, Westminster. Thank you guys for hosting our episode. Today we have a very special guest with us, Dr. Colleen Simpson, president of the Front Range Community College. With multiple decades of experience, a master's, and a doctorate's degree, Dr. Simpson brings a wealth of experience and a dynamic vision for our college's future. In today's episode, we'll explore Dr. Simpson's journey from her university days to her leadership role at FRCC. We'll discuss her professional experiences, her insights on diversity and inclusion, and her ambitious goals for our institution. Plus, we'll get a personal look into what drives her as an educator and a leader. Let's delve right into it, into the person leading our college into a new era. Welcome to the show, Dr. Simpson.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Every story has an origin, so let's start right at the beginning. Could you take us back to the early chapters of your life? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school?
So now you're taking me back in a time zone. Excitingly, I have to say Caribbean American is my background. And for me, I'm going to probably go back to the memories when I started out in probably high school. And that was in the Bronx, New York. And what I loved about growing up in New York City is it's a melting pot of ideas. And so you get that opportunity to try different things, expose yourself to different things. And high school was no different for me. I was this young little girl who really didn't know who she was, what she wanted to do. And I got a chance to try different things. And so I joined different clubs in high school. I thought I was going to be an athlete, but that didn't really work out very well because I didn't want to put the time in. And so I think for me, my early years was really about learning and discovery.
And off of that, what role did education play sort of, before college, while you were in high school? How did that shape you into the educator and leader that you are today?
I would say my parents, my mom and dad probably was the biggest advocate for me related to education. Reading was huge in my family. And so every night we had to read a book or had to tell a story. And so that helped shape my mind and allowed me to begin that development of learning. I would say education, I've always been surrounded with education. My aunts are teachers. I have individuals who participate in various training programs. And so throughout my tenure as a young girl, it was, okay, how do you be better as a person? And that's the role education played for me. When I got to college, I started college at a very youthful age of 16. And so, of course, if you know anything about a 16-year-old, you have no idea what you want to do and where you even want to go. And so for me, it was really just participating in different things and keeping my mind open to new ideas, new development. And so my first year of college, I remember taking an intro to psychology course. And I think that's when my brain just got on fire. I'm in love with Maslow hierarchy of needs. And at 16, I was like, wow, this is what I want to do. I want to be a part of learning. And so within my second year, I volunteered to be a peer advisor. My friends would say to me, you don't get paid for this? And I was like, no, I just want to be with students. I want to be a part of what they're doing, how they're doing it. And that was really what fueled my passion around education.
That's an amazing story. Was education, so I'm sure that your parents encouraged you to try different things. Is that something that they exposed you to early on? Had they gone through any sort of college or university training themselves?
So here's the funny thing about my parents. Neither one of them went to college at all. But like any immigrant parents who come to the United States, your goal is to make sure your kids have more than what you have. And so my mom and dad would always say to us, even though we didn't go to college, we know that that opportunity is there for you. And we're going to expose you to those opportunities. And so I remember filling out my college application, and my dad said to me, I have no idea what this is about at all, but I'm going to get you someone who can help you with this. And so my parents we are Seventh-day Adventists. That's our faith. And I remember going to church, and at church, there was a youth group. And we sat down with the leader of the youth group, and my dad and my mom said, okay, she needs to fill out her application. And that is the help I got to fill out my college application and to fill out financial aid. And nothing has changed about financial aid. Even when I went to college, it was quite an ordeal. So what I can say about my parents is they always made sure the opportunities were there for myself and my sisters. And if they didn't know, they were like, here's how I can connect you so that you can stay on that path.
That's admirable. And where there's a will, there's a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there a lesson that you learned in your early life that you find yourself going back to?
There's nothing I can't do once I put my mind to it. And that was instilled very early by my parents. Try. There's no such thing as failure in my family. And there's no such thing as no in my family. It's about, well, you didn't get it right this time. That's okay. Let's try a different approach. Let's look at it from a different perspective or a different lens. You can cry for a day, and then by the second day, okay, what is it that we have to do now?
Yeah, I'm reminded of a quote from Maya Angelou: "No experience is ever wasted."
It's all a part of what's going to make you a stronger person. And that's how I view all of my experiences.
Right. You mentioned that, your parents always exposed you to the opportunity to go to college. Was there a pivotal moment in your early life where you decided that that was the path that you wanted to take?
I think for me, because I've always been an eager beaver, I'm like the kind of person who want to keep developing and want to keep learning. And so for me, college was that natural path for me. I was like, what other place can I go to? And I would be exposed to all different subjects, all different types of people. At 16, I think for me, it wasn't even about going to college, it was about getting out of the house. And so college provided that environment where I was like, oh, I get to hang out a little bit later. I get to do different things. And so that was probably half and half was education, and the other half was social networking.
And when you were in college, you were a member of student government. What role did you play in student government, and how did that sort of shape your philosophy as a leader and an educator?
I would say that was probably my first experience as a leader. And that's what I love about being in any organization as a student. You get exposed to the inner workings of the college, but you also get to be a part of the process. And in the City University of New York, our student government has a structure where there are senators. And so a senator at large is someone who's voted in by the students. And then your senator actually represents the students. And so you have to campaign. You have to go out there and identify what your cause is going to be that's going to support the students. And then once you are appointed a senator, then you get to sit on the college board, it's the college governing structure. And then you also represent that institution at the system level. And so for me, when I think back to those years, they were almost like a sort of like my pre-learning to leadership, because I got that opportunity to really see, okay, how are decisions really made? What really impacts a decision? It's nice for you to be passionate about something, but when you have to bring people together, and then have to create consensus around those decisions. That's where the hard work happens. And so for me, that development of that critical thinking was embedded very early within my educational journey.
That's awesome that you were exposed to leadership so early on and that you were able to tell from a very early stage in your life that this is something that you were passionate about. How do you take the lessons learned from your time in student government and apply them to your leadership role now as president of Front Range Community College?
Well, I think what's important is you must understand what your intrinsic values are. And your values is what really aligns with your leadership. And so for me, my intrinsic values have always been around serving, have always been around taking a look at who's not at the table and who should be at the table. And so if you were to talk to my sisters or anyone early in my life, they will tell you she was always about a project. If there was a project within our community, if there was a project at the college or at home, okay, Colleen is the one who's going to be like, all right, let's bring people together. Let's talk about how we're going to do this work. And so leadership for me has to align with my values. It has to align with who I am as a person first. And so first of all, as a person, I believe in treating everybody fairly. I believe in meeting people where they are and finding the best in them. My friends will tell you I'm probably the greatest optimistic person you'll ever meet. I smile every day. I greet people the way I would like to be greeted, no matter who you are. I don't look at status at all. And as a result of that, I'm able to allow myself to be a part and be in situations that allows me to connect with individuals.
Of course. And those are very important traits to have as a leader, especially when you're leading such a large institution like Front Range Community College. So you mentioned that diversity and inclusion are part of your core values. What does your appointment as FRCC's first African American president reveal about diversity in higher ed?
You know, when I think about this role, of course, representation matters. And if you think about only 1/3 of college presidents are women. And then when you add in the African American component, it's even less. And so for me, when I walk into this role and when I think about what I've accomplished, it's not really about me. It's about, do the next generation of women and African American women see themselves as a president? Can they see themselves doing this work? And so for me, it's opening that door. And when I show up as my authentic self. All of you know I'm a sneakerhead. I wear my sneakers all the time because I want students to know that you can be in this role and still have your true identity to who you are. And so leading for me in this role is making sure I represent for the next generation of young women, and not just young women who are African American, women overall. I want them to say, guess what? Dr. Simpson did this. And so guess what? I can do this also.
Right. So you're the representation of what it means to exist in places that weren't necessarily built for you, but you being there is the revolution.
Correct.
Speaking to FRCC and where we're headed, FRCC is on an emerging path to becoming a Hispanic serving institution.
Correct.
What, if we get the official recognition from the Department of Education, which means that 1/4 of our student body identifies as Hispanic, what does that mean for minoritized students, Hispanic students, and how will they benefit from the new available resources to them through this?
So one of the things that's excited about being an emerging HSI institution is that we get to serve. And so I always tell the college community, enrolling students is great. Retaining students is great. But if we're not serving our students for them to complete and earn the credentials that they're needed to move into family sustainable wages or upward social mobility, then we've not done our jobs at all. And so what I'm hoping that will come out of becoming a HSI institution is resources. In order for this work to happen here, we have to say to ourselves, resource allocation is important. With that designee, we get to apply for more grants. We get different types of funding opportunities. We get to be a part of certain associations that allocate resources for students. And so for me, it's really about the changing student demographics, meeting them where they are, and then making sure they're successful. I'll share a story with you. I remember when I started college, math is not my strongest strength. I own it. And when I started, I remember they said I'm going to need a remedial math course before I go into my college level course. And I will tell you, what was a game changer for me was that summer, my institution, Baruch College, allowed me to go into a summer immersion program. That summer immersion program gave me the abilities, the skills, so that I can be ready for my fall course. I'm sharing that with you because at the time, my institution focused on serving. They wanted to make sure a student like myself, who grew up in the inner city, urban city, still had the ability to excel at that four-year institution. And so when I think about what we will be able to do when we get our HSI designee is serving, meeting students where they are, providing them greater resources so that they can be successful, and embracing the diversity of thoughts that's going to come to our institution when you're able to say you now have all different types of culture growing and evolving at our institution.
Are there, you mentioned grants and organizations that will be able to join. Are there specific programs that you would be interested in starting that we could maybe do with grant money that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we will build on the programs we currently have right now. We have a TRIO program. We have a TRIO program at BCC. We have it at WC. It'll be great for us to have a TRIO program at LC. That's an opportunity for us. We have just expanded our multicultural centers. When I got here, we had a multicultural center at WC. Now we have locations set aside at both BCC and LC. The goal around these centers is how do we embed now cultural programming that allow us to embrace the richness of all different types of cultures. Mm-hmm. And so I see both a academic component and I also see both a social component that would enrich our institution.
And, talking about enriching the institution, are there any areas where FRCC right now falls short in terms of diversity and equity, and what are the areas that, and what are you doing to address those areas?
So when I started the institution, I gave 3 main bullet points of where I see our growth needs to happen. And I'll focus on one of them is creating a sense of belonging for students, faculty, and staff. And there's no secret. I say to our college community all the time. When I came in for my interviews and I got the opportunity to be at all 3 of our campuses, and I walked the WC campus, and the first thing I noticed was the institutional beige walls. And I said to myself, they're clean, which is great, but what opportunities do we have to tell a story on our walls? And so for me, walking into this building, I said to myself, wouldn't it be great if along that long corridor where all of us walk to get our steps in, we told a story through cultural art? And as an African American woman, I will tell you one of the greatest joy I had when I went to Baruch College, the City University of New York, was I walked into the Student Life building and there was this huge picture of Maya Angelou on the wall. And I was like, holy nice. I won't tell you what I said. I said, holy nice. And I was like, there's somebody that looked like me on the walls of this institution. And I don't know if the institution realized what that did to me, but it created a connection for me immediately. And so art is a great representation to bring about experiences. There's so much more that we can do so that we create that sense of belonging, not only inside the classroom, but also outside of the classroom. And so creating a sense of belonging is something I know I am passionate about focusing on here at FRCC. We also had the opportunity within our student engagement division to now hire what we're calling coordinators for cultural and leadership programs. And so I'm excited to see what they're going to roll out in terms of preparing our institution through cultural programs across all 3 of our campuses. And then when I think about employees, I think about, okay, how do we ensure we remain an institution of choice for underrepresented, marginalized group of employees that we hire here? And so what do we have to do around equity training? What do we have to do around biases? How do we ensure that we create that same welcoming environment for both our students and for our employees? And so all of these things make up that ecosystem of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And there's work for us to still do.
You've been involved in some transformative initiatives throughout the campus. Your administration has spoken about the Career Forward and Career Advance programs. Can you explain to our audience what these programs are?
So I'm really excited about access and opportunity. And so when you think about programs like Career Forward and Colorado Career Advance, these are programs that are focused on access and opportunity. And so I'm going to give you hot off the press. So you are getting a scoop right now. Yes, you are, Seth. Okay? Career Forward, we have distributed all fundings as of yesterday. And so I am really proud to say that almost 1,000 students, over 1,000 students receive funding for Career Forward Colorado. And what Career Forward Colorado focused on was really providing at zero cost, which means no tuition or fees for students to enroll in several of our healthcare certificate programs. And so if you know anything about me, I'm about access, ramp on, ramp off. We know that our students sometimes have to come to us and get that first level of skills. And then they have commitments, whether it's family commitments, whether it's work commitments. And so if we're able to give you that first certificate that allows you to go back out into the world of work and improve your work and your pay, that's a great thing. But we also know those credits also create pathways into our associate degrees. And so at any time you want to return back to us after earning that certificate, those credits are transferable to our associate degrees. So Career Forward has done a great job in giving access to students in our healthcare fields. The Career Advance is what we're currently doing right now. And that has expanded. We now have over 1,500 students that are enrolled this semester that are receiving funding that's benefiting them through our Career Advance. And Career Advance added in education, firefighting, nursing, and other pathways. And so that we're excited about.
So FRCC and other community colleges around the country have seen declining enrollment for many years. And last November we spoke and you committed to doing a strategic enrollment management assessment to sort of come up with a plan to how to address that decline. Has there been any progress on that front?
So more good news for all of you. Enrollment is up. We have been up for the last 2 semesters. Summer semester, we was up almost 12% over summer 2022. And right now for the fall, we're up 8% over the fall last year. So we are trending in the right direction. And there's early indicators for spring 2024 that is looking very positive. And I think part of that, as you alluded, Seth, was as an institution, we said, where do we need to allocate resources for success to happen from a strategic enrollment management perspective? And the first thing we did was, and I've shared this with our college community, is the foundation is so important as it relates to leadership. And so we redesigned a position. We had a vice president position, and we decided to focus that now on enrollment management and student success. And so for the first time, we have now hired a vice president whose role is enrollment management and student success. He joined us about 7 months ago, Dr. Gabriel Cassiano, and he has been working strategically with his team. In addition to that, we also hired an associate vice president for enrollment management. And so for success to happen, you have to be intentional. You have to say, how do you align your resources so that you can get intentional results? I always like to say my late mother, she always used to say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. Sometimes in education, we master insanity. I have to say it. But we also have to say, in order for us to see things differently, we have to embark upon evolution and change. Under our new Vice President for Enrollment Management and Student Success, we are now focusing on that student experience. What do students need in order for them to enroll at our institution and then stay at our institution? But we're still in the early stages of it. More work has to happen. We have to embark upon communication. We have to streamline our communication for our students. We also have to continue to take a look at our structure, evaluate it to make sure it is giving us the results that we want to be doing. So this is going to continue to be an effort for us, and you'll hear more about the college-wide strategic plan as we continue to embrace where we're going to be future ready.
Awesome. That's all great news. So these are all successes that hopefully, will continue to develop into the future. I hope that the Career Forward and Care Forward programs continue to provide opportunities to students to advance their professional lives and academic careers. We've talked a lot about your experiences and your plans for our campus. To wrap up, I'd like to ask if you could share one piece of wisdom with current FRCC students that you wish you'd known when you were in college, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough one. The world around us is changing. And so when I think back to who we were 5 years ago and who we are 5 years later and where we're going 5 years into the future, I would say to all students, embrace evolution. Change is going to happen. And so how do you build yourself to be resilient for change? And sometimes with change, it's unprecedented, and you will not have all of the answers. But keep an open mind. Don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to expose yourself, and welcome diversity of thought. That allows you to be the best person, not only as a student, but as a human being.
Amazing. Dr. Simpson, it's been a privilege to hear your story and learn about your vision for FRCC. Thank you for taking the time to share with us. We appreciate it so very much, and I'm sure our audience does too. You guys, make sure you visit us at the front page, frcc.com, where you'll find more stories interviews that Seth has done with Dr. Simpson. And hopefully we get to have you back on the podcast soon.
And I will close out by saying thank you. This has been the highlight for me, Friday. If anyone knows me, students are at the core of what I do and why I do. And so just being here in this studio and seeing the amount of students that are making this work, I am proud to serve as FRCC president. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks, Dr.
Great job. Thank you. Make sure that you do.
I will. We'll share a link with you.